to today's session. Like I also mentioned that today is the International Human Resource Day, and that to just lay the background, it's actually a day to recognize and celebrate human resource professionals all over, because we believe that they play an integral role to people management, to nurturing and developing human capital. So that's why today is actually being celebrated, and every one of us here, we are all HR professionals. So the theme for this year is HR shaping the future. And then we actually said we're going to talk about the future of work. We are trying to correct the past and present trends. We all saw what the pandemic of 2020 brought, the new wave it brought about new work trends. So we're going to see what has been adopted by some organizations. We're going to hear some wrong HR practices we need to correct, and then the way forward. Yeah, so thank you very much again for joining. So Blessing, over to you. Can you tell me one HR trend that you think has been adapted by organizations, and then what's your thoughts on them, basically?
Okay, I think I would just thank you, Kewe, and once again, thank you everyone for joining. I think I will just start with the post-pandemic era. I mean, we all knew COVID brought about a major shift, in the workspace, and since then, people started to think of better ways or other ways to get job done. So a very critical trend is the hybrid working. And hybrid working is a fusion of both work from home and being physically in the office. So that's one trend that came out from the COVID era, and that's something that we know is going to continue. I'm certain that the future of work is even going to go beyond hybrid working. We're going to be talking about work from anywhere. You don't even have to be in the office. We're going to be doing productivity over presence. And one reason why I feel like this particular trend itself should be sustained is hybrid brings about flexibility. And the future of work is very key. Flexibility is a crucial aspect of the future of work. So people want work structures that they don't have to come here. They don't have to be at the work. They don't have to be at a particular location to deliver value or to give value. So the hybrid working is going to bring about flexibility. And I'm very certain come that future of work, which is already happening, will move from even working from home to working from anywhere. You will go to co-work spaces. I mean, the bunker is one of our products of Resource Intermediaries Limited. We have co-work spaces. I have people who they are not even their head office is not even in Lagos, but they come to some of our locations in Lekki and in Yaba. Even those that are outside of Lagos, they go there and they get their job done without having to go to the office. And another advantage that we have is better productivity. For those of us in Lagos, I mean, we know how many hours we spend in traffic, toll flow of work, and I know if we put those hours into getting something done, we'll be way more productive than it were, so there will be better productivity. And I was very keen on saying productivity over presence. So we need to start looking towards getting good work structures that factors this flexibility and how people don't have to be at the work physically, to carry out their functions. So that's one aspect of one.
So that's the hybrid infusement of
yes,
work.
The hybrid work.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so Joseph, I know that you head the talent and culture advisory in Resource Intermediaries, and I'm sure you must have gotten so many challenges. Or let me ask you, from your staff, from your talents that you manage, has this been, or have there been any challenges so far from your staff that you manage using this hybrid workings? Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Kewe. I like to say that even though hybrid mode is also a good one, but however, there are some constraints that we need to resolve and for it to be effective. Now, what you need to understand is that even though work from home is something good, but again, certain processes need to be in place. I remember at the time I needed some urgent thing to be done, and I had to put a call through to one of my subordinates. and I was hearing Ujolega. I was just wondering, this guy is supposed to be at home working. Supposed to be at home working. So I just felt that yes, to give them that flexibility to work, but again, the staff must make sure that it's actually working from home. Because where you need something urgent to do on the system, you call the staff is not there. So yes, there are some advantages. Again, we need to find a way of monitoring, ensuring that these staff that are working from home are actually working from home. Otherwise, the essence of that is defeated. Then I also have complaints from some of my staff also about data, because of data going on, asking for salary increment. They need to put on generator. There's no light, there's no power, no electricity for them to put on the system. And of course, they're asking for salary increment because they need to buy. Is either I provide data or I provide money for them to run the gen.
True.
Of course, you know the power situation in the country. So it's either I provide that or I increase the salary. So for me, I have to look at the bottom line. But I have to look at my staff cost. So it increased my staff cost. Of course, I have no choice than to seek management approval to provide some form of incentive for them to perhaps get some data and, of course, have some extra money for their fuel. So yes, it comes at a cost, even though people say it's economical, it's cost effective. But for me, I don't see so, because even the cost I'm trying to run away from, I'm still spending it. So I just felt that, yes, it's a good initiative, but however, there are also some cost constraints. Now, one thing I also observe about flexible work again is that it's not applicable to all industry. Do you understand? So there's some industry that they need to be physically present. Take, for instance, the construction company, engineering company, and agricultural companies. You need to be physically present for them to be able to make impacts. So it's not in all cases that the hybrid will work. Then again, talking about employee bonding or engagement. Now, you agree with me, when somebody comes to the office, we interact, we see, we chat, we play. But again, if you are working remotely, how do you ensure that the staff, that engagement is there? Even though you communicate with your colleague, but that engagement, as I'm saying, it's not there. Because when you come to the office, I see you, we talk, we chat, we laugh, you know. But working remotely, such opportunity is not there, so to speak.
Okay, so I think, Joseph, from what you've said, because you mentioned some challenges, so I think it's just for us going forward for employees, and then, okay, especially for the employers to put this into deep thoughts before we just say, oh, this is what we are debating for, work hybrid and all of that. Some of the things that you've actually said, for instance, the data, the power supply, and then when we say work from home, it doesn't necessarily mean the person needs to be home. Some people, I know my MD Sojoya, he has an home office, so he has put discipline into it. So this I think are things that should actually be preached to the employees. So don't just say, okay, you're working hybrid or you're working remotely, and then you think it's a time for you to sleep on your bed at home. No, create a space in your home that would serve as your office, and also be disciplined about it. You know that if you want to resume work at 8 a.m., you must have had your bath, even if you're working remotely and all of that. Then also with the trends of co-work spaces and all, look for a nearby co-work space in your area. I will try and say this again. Yes, resource intermediaries, we saw this, or we saw this trend even before the 2020, and that's why the vision of the bunker was actually birthed. Yeah, and amongst other people also. So it's also an encouragement for everyone to understand the concept. That's what we're trying to do today. We're trying to preach the trends. We're trying to understand the challenges, the concepts, and then the way forward. Lesson, any other words on hybrid working before you help us with some other trends also for the future of work?
I just feel like every change comes with its own disadvantages generally. So there's no one cap fit all. So we need to keep thinking. It's why we're talking about future of work. The human resource department, management of organizations need to keep thinking of how they can make this structure work, that it will be beneficial to the employer and beneficial to the employee. We will not just assume, okay, just the disadvantage. We will not just look at the side of the disadvantage and just say, okay, no, we can't go on with it. We have to find a way of making these things work, because we're talking of the future of work here. We are going to get to a point where you can't even see somebody to employ that is going to take 9 to 5, Monday to Fridays. If you, as we speak, during interviews, people would ask you, they won't even ask you, is it hybrid? They will ask you, how many days am I expected to come to work in a week? That's because they feel like you should, as in it's automatic. By now, you should be operating the hybrid system. So we need to begin to look for ways would make the process smooth and beneficial to both the organization and the employees in general.
Okay, thank you. So any other work trends for the future of work?
Okay, another work trends is where the total reward system is beginning to evolve, right? People are not thinking, and when I mean total rewards, I'm not talking about salaries. Gone are those days where people just want to work and get paid. People are beginning to ask for different things, because people are beginning to want different things from the organization. And when I mean rewards, I'm talking about work-life harmony. Some people say work-life balance. We are still on that topic of, is there really work-life balance? We just use the work-life harmony. People want organizations with fantastic work cultures. People want sense of belonging. People want fulfilling employee experiences. People are not just looking for salaries. You pay me 13th month, you pay me leave allowance and all the likes. And I think at some point, organizations get to just focus on just the bottom line. They think of just the profit. They think of what are these employees bringing on board? What are they delivering? They just think of performance. They get carried away with all of those things that they forget to ask themselves some question. I mean, what's your organization's value proposition? Why should an organization, why should an employee work for you? Why do I have to work for your organization? What am I gaining from the organization I'm working from? So people are moving from just pay me salaries and I work, or just give me one stipend or one incentive or whatever. They are beginning to think, okay, I'm working for this organization for 2-3 years. What are this organization really, done in my life? Am I happy working here? Are your people happy working where they are? Are they fulfilled? I mean, are their personal career goals being attained? Is it just about the organization? Are you an organization that just thinks about just your goals and your objectives? You think about your employees' goals as well. Are they happy working with you? Are their career really, really, really rewarding? People are beginning to think like that. And it's quite painful that even while we are going towards this future of work that's talking about personal goal attainment, that's talking about work-life balance, work-life harmony, that's talking about good employee experiences, that even some organizations still do not do the basic or provide the basic rewards that should be given to staff. And when I mean basic rewards, I'm talking of some organizations, their staff can't go on leave. I mean, this is 2022. Some organizations, their salary is 100% on performance. These are terrible, terrible, terrible practices. People come to work, they spend their time, they spend their resources, and you say, okay, because they're not meeting a certain target or they're not meeting a certain KPI, you don't pay them anything. Some people don't even have HMOs for their employees at 2022, when organizations are moving way beyond this and thinking of how they create a very good atmosphere or create more rewarding packages for their employees. It's so really bad. And I think organizations should begin to look towards this. HR need to push the management of every organizations to start looking towards reviewing their reward system and see how they can be more impactful. It's not just about what you get from the employee. Employees want to know what they get from you. I'm here for 5 years. What has this particular organization done for me? Has my career grown? Has my career been developed? Have I added anything? Have I grown personally? So it's not all about you are bringing on.
Yeah, thank you, Blessing. So what I get from this is that, so the 100% of who has the 100% obligation? Is it the number? Is it the man who is actually looking for the job, who may not even know that these benefits are what is entitlement, so to say? So who has this obligation? Is it the employee, the employer, or the HR, the human resource practitioner? So do you think
everybody has a role to play? HR can never act alone, right? No matter the ideas that any HR person has, they still need a go-ahead from the management of every organization. So organizations the management team needs to begin to think outside the box. They need to begin to listen. They need to begin to explore and find a way of accepting changes. So HR can bring an idea and the management will say, no, there's no money, and kill it. So no person acts alone. And employees too also, I don't even want to go the part of employees because employees are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. A lot of employees these days are making researches. People get jobs, they go and ask people who have worked in the organization before. They ask their HR mentors, I received an offer. What do you think about this offer? What do you think about this organization? Employees are actually doing their part. They are making researches, they're asking questions. And HR people should begin to go that light. We need to evolve with time. What are the new trends? What are the new changes I should be bringing on board? And management too should continue to, support, because HR can't act alone. And that's the truth. And that's what most employees do not even know. So when practices are bad or negative, they just pin it on the HRO. Some HRs actually go, beyond their own scope and try to push for things, and then the organization just puts it back. So it's all in. It's all in.
Okay, thank you so much, Blessing. So, Joseph, over to you. Any future work trend that you've seen that for you, and I'll also like you guys to help us with practical examples also. Thank you, Blessing, so much for that point. Thank you. So, Joseph, over to you.
All right. I think one of the trends which I would like to see continue is the area of digital acceleration and technology development. Many organizations will remember the year 2020 as the year of digital transformation. When we talk about digital transformation, we're talking about both internal and external process, but it's quite essential in running business today. Now, talking about the tools, software solutions for employee communication are at the top list when it comes to implementing the digital solutions and within the workplace. I remember also during the period where we were at home, I think for almost 3 months, we had to pay salaries, we had to do a lot of things from the comfort of our homes. And of course, we had to respond to some of our client needs. Why? Because we have a database which is hosted on the internet, so which is web enabled. So we're able to relate to our clients, relate to our staffs, and get the job done. So I want that to continue. So which means that organization must of necessity begin to build the right competencies, because you need the right competency to be able to do that. Because without the right competencies, people can't actually deliver. Now, according to a research made by McKinsey, it said that only 5% of the job will completely be automated. Only 5%. So therefore, it is believed that in the future, workers will spend more time on activities that machines are not capable of, or such as managing people and applying expertise and communicating with others. So all these things, machine can't do them. So human interventions are required. So which means that talent need to be built, the competency need to be built so that people can upskill, so that can work towards this digital transformation. So in other words, human beings will spend less time in predictive and repetitive works, physical activities, as well as collecting all those process data. So what this means is that you see a big shift, okay, on the need for different people to improve on their skill. So social and economic skills are critical. And of course, this will help people to be able to add value when this opportunity comes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does this fall under the place of power skills?
Yes, you need to upskill, because we're talking about digital transformation, because most of the job will go digital. So you need to upskill, you need to have that skill to be able to work at that level where you need to put those skills to bear.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Joseph. Blessing, back to you. So any other point before we move on to wrong HR practices? Any other point for the future of work? Any trends that you've seen that you think we should adapt going forward?
Yes, I think another trend that should be adapted, or we should look into, is the issue of DEI, which we call the diversity, equity, and inclusion. Every innovative organization depends on those three, and that's because the part of the diversity, we know diversity is like differences in an organization. So by diversity, we mean different languages, we mean different generations. This past few weeks or months, we've always, all over the place, we have different opinions on the generations war, the older generations thinking, the young generation
Then
The other, okay, the younger generations are just sports people. They are lazy. They want things done their way. And the younger generations thinking these people just want to keep doing things the same way. They just want everything to remain status quo. But in all sincerity, there is no way we can work with just one generation. So I think we also begin to focus on the strengths of each of this generation than depending on talking so much of the negativity. For me, I feel like we need the agility of the young generation and the wisdom of the old generation, fuse it together and create something very amazing. So there's no time to be dragging, oh, who is right, who is wrong, are these people sport? Even the as tough as it may be with dealing with the younger generation, they have a lot of things that they bring on board. They are bringing creativity, they are bringing faster ways of doing things, they are bringing digitalization into the workspace that people would ordinarily not have thought of. And the old people still have, you know, things that they know they can bring on board. So we need both generations, the older, the newer generation, regardless of what generation name, baby boomer, the Gen Z, millennials, or whatever. We need to sit together and begin to think of how we can push organization and build ourselves, build our competencies towards the future of work. So then we talk about different ages, different genders. These things are very important, even up the way to the management. Every management should have practically every generation duly represented in their management team. Every organization should have the male gender and the female gender. Sorry, Joseph. There are some things that the female folks, you know, bring to the table that the men can't bring to the table. They can't think about it. Their minds won't even go there. So diversity is something that we should really, 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 you know, look towards how we can fuse people of different thinking, different thoughts. You know, when you keep doing things the same way, right? You keep coming out with the same results. So it's key that you bring people who think differently, people who act differently, the young, the old. We need each other, you know, to bring about innovation. And equity talks about fair opportunities, you know, given to all. Because a lot of times we see equality in the organization, not equity. Because equality is you are giving everybody the same chance, the same opportunity. Yeah. Regardless of who they are. So, for example, let me say I'm recruiting for a customer service role, and I get people. Let's say I shortlist them, or I shortlist 20 people, and I need them to undergo a training, right? And among those 20 people, I have some people with 2 years experience. I have some people with 0 experience. But you're expecting that all of these people will learn from that training in 2 weeks. That's equality. That's not equity. Equity would consider that, oh, there are people who are more experienced. Those people are they are prone to learn faster. While the ones who have less experience will need more time on the job. So maybe you run same 2 weeks training and then give those with 0 experience people that could, you know, understand, people that they could understudy. But we have to create a fair opportunity for everybody to grow and a room for everybody to push out or develop their potentials. And when we talk of the I, which is the inclusion, you know, it's one thing to have a diverse team. Is another thing for those diverse teams to be duly included. So, for example, I have an organization that I have the old, I have the young, I have the Hausa, I have the Igbo, I have male, I have female. But when you want to make decisions, do you just stick to just the male folks? When you want to take decisions in the organization, you want to talk about things that has to do with the organization, do you just talk to just the old people because you feel like they're the only ones who have the experiences, or they're the only ones who know what you're talking about? The young people to have something to say, they have something to bring on board. So diversity, equity, inclusion is one thing that anybody who is looking or strategizing towards the future of work have to have on board. It's really, really, really key. Thank you.
Much, Blessing. Thank you, everybody. Please drop your questions as we are engaging ourselves in this session. Please drop your questions. Let's answer anything about human resource, anything about the future of work, anything about recruitment. Please just drop it. Okay, so now we'll be moving to some wrong HR practices. These ones that we're going to be eating the nail on the armor on the nail. I don't know. So we're going to be talking about some wrong HR practices. That's for our followers who are here, who really want to know, are these things wrong? Are they right? Is there any justification to it that's pertaining to human resources? So before we start getting questions and people dropping their questions on wrong HR practices or really what is right, can you just please delve into that? Joseph, will start from you. Some wrong HR practices that you think should be aborted totally.
Well, thank you very much, Kewe. Part of the HR practices that some organization practice is in the area of, especially in the area of performance management. Take, for instance, there's a particular client of ours that we had to put for. And of course, we agreed at the time of initiating the transaction that we should recruit direct sales agents for them, which we did. And of course, we agreed that we don't actually monitor career performance. So they are also agreed, okay, go ahead and get the staff to be deployed. SLA was signed, sealed, and delivered. Now, we deployed these staffs to work with the clients. When it was time for salary to be paid, the clients told us that those guys that they didn't perform well, so therefore they are not going to be paid. Now, at the initial stage, we told them, look, you can't say that you can't pay staff simply because the person has not opened an account, because that was not the basis at which the person was employed, because there's a fixed pay, which is the base pay. Then you also have the performance-induced pay. So if they're unable to earn the performance-induced pay, of course, they should earn that normal pay because they will have incurred costs going to work. Believe you me, as we speak, that organization has not made that payment.
Whoa.
But because resource intermediaries were people management, we have gone ahead to pay the staff, hoping to recoup the money from the clients. So just like what Blessing said, a lot of organizations pay too much concentration on performance management without looking at the other part of it. So as it speaks now, those staff ordinarily, if we were to be working with them directly, they may not have paid them at all. So such practices should be stopped, where you say you want staff to, until staff performs 100%, that is when that staff is paid. Because these staff have left the house, incur costs in transporting from home to the offices, but have incur costs also in telephone and other things, and you're not paying the person. So how do you want this person to feed, even though he has family? So I think such practices should be discouraged. No organization that wants to progress should imbibe in such a kind of policy or culture.
Okay. Thank you very much. Blessing, any wrong HR practices, any wrong human resource practices that's a trend in our country, in the international space? Anyone coming to you?
I think the one that comes into my mind, I think people are still recruiting staff based on certifications, based on school, whatever, and they are ignoring the skill part. I think we need to start looking towards hiring people based on their skill, based on what they can bring on board, and think less of papers, think less of certificates, think less of history. We have seen situations where you bring a very experienced person with PhD, masters, everything, and they come on those jobs, on those roles, and they can't deliver on it.
Sure.
Because we are so focused on what we shouldn't be focusing on. I think we need to begin to look towards hiring people based on the skill that they have. So what if I don't have BSc, but I can market? There are a lot of people who, they don't have BSc, but they can market very well. There are a lot of fantastic customer service people you meet, and you just ask them, sorry, what certificate did you have? You say, secondary school. And you're like, wow. And then you come back to maybe your company and you see people with masters. They can't even carry on their jobs well. We have situations even in Resource Intermediaries Limited where you are asking this person, the way this person is acting so fantastically, does this person have BSc? And then you'll be amazed. Because yes, we do. We have a whole lot of fantastic employees here who don't have BSc. And they are delivering so well on the job. And we have had situations of employing people with that same BSc and they can't deliver on it. So I think we need to begin to think less of certificates and begin to look towards skills. What value is this person bringing to the table? What does this person have, you know, that creates a competitive advantage for this organization, creates a competitive advantage for me against my own competitors? What don't I have existing can this person bring on? But we need to start looking towards skills. I'm really skills over certificates, any day, anytime.
Thank you, B. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, everybody also still in this session. So I was able to pick up a question from the chat box. And then the question reads, how do we manage annual leave with remote work effectively? How do we manage annual leave with remote work effectively? Who wants to go first? Joseph?
Well, for you to manage annual leave, it depends upon the policy of the organization.
Okay.
Now, if you are going on remote work, it's expected that policies are designed, are written up so that such policies will guide how that leave can be administered. Now, take for instance, if you are entitled to perhaps like maybe 20 working days annual leave, and prior the flexi work. So a policy there can be a policy change to say, look, since you are adopting flexi work, so that annual leave days we may have to work on it, at least to reduce in such a way that you don't have to spend so much days on holidays. So it depends upon what is agreed on the policy. So policy can be amended to accommodate those days which you think is appropriate for such an employee to take as annual leave.
So do you think that strategy is fair enough coming from the employee aspect?
And the organization as well.
Yes, and the organization. Help me come from the angle of the organization. And then Blessing, you help me come from the angle of the employee. What you just said now, you just gave us like a solution that can be adopted. So coming from the organization angle, why do you think this is so? I'm entitled to so and so days work from flex in a month, and then I'm entitled to my leave, and then I decide in a month that, okay, I want to take my 20 days leave, annual leave in that month, and then why can't I still have my flexi work from home? I'm still going to be working from home anyways. So come from the organization angle.
Well, the truth is, if I have to come from the organizational angle, now, if the person has to, because not ordinarily, except, like I said, if it's agreed ab initio that policy should kickstart. But if the policy is on trial, okay, if you are trying the policy to say, okay, let's see how the present work or remote work will work, then it will be fine for that particular employee to enjoy his total annual leave. Do you understand? Because right from the beginning, it was not agreed to say, look, if I go on a flexi work, you deduct my annual leave. But well, on the part of the employee, the employer, you saw that the employer has given so much. Okay, but then you look at the number of holidays within the annual year, number of holidays. Then you also talk about taking annual leave. You also talk about exam leave. You also talk about compassionate leave, casual leave. So the organization has given so much. So at the end of the day, you discover that a lot of days are taken as a vacation, which I feel that if the organization is to go remotely, then you need to revisit the leave policy so that it can be, so that the organization does not be on the lose from the other end.
Okay, I'm waiting for my followers. I'm waiting for Blessings followers. I'm waiting for research intermediaries followers to also counterfeit what he just said or agree.
Yeah.
So that's to be an engaged session, guys.
I think this whole thing of vacation has really been abused in Nigeria because, and what I'm saying it is, we are mixing it up here. Work from home and vacation are not the same thing. When you say work from home, I can't say because I have days I'm working from home, so my vacation days should be reduced. Vacation is supposed to be a time where I relax. I don't work. I don't do anything. I have to be my family. I have time for my other personal things. I have time for my friends. I have time for me. I just want to pull off. I don't want to think work. I don't want to think anything. Work from home is, I'm just working from a different location. However, work is still going on. The only thing is because some employees over time have gotten to abuse the work from home, because they are now using the work from home days as a time where they do their personal runs. Because if we understand what work from home is, and we understand what vacation or leave really is, there's no reason why one has to affect the other. They are two different things entirely. Work from home is I don't have to go through the hustle of Lagos to get to work. I get to work, I'm tired. But vacation is I'm just cooling off. I'm taking my time off work. I'm vacating my seat.
Okay. and my work mind also.
Do you understand? So that's
Is because we have so much responsible employees, so to say. Some people are on their annual leave, and then it doesn't mean that when you call them for an emergency, for a work emergency, that they don't answer. So we have much responsible employees, and then I wouldn't say that some employers are also taking advantage of it. Because they know that this person is very efficient, this person is very productive, is always at our beck and call, and even on vacation, they still want to take out time from that person's vacation, and that's where the delegation skills come under. So I'm going to be saying this as one of the HR gurus, like Joseph and Blessing. I'm not coming from the side of moderation now. So I think delegation actually is important. I think organizations should also preach this. Let the top tiers, let the heads, the group heads, let them of department, let them be able to delegate to the next person below them, their subordinates and all. Even a subordinate delegate to another subordinate, like that. Let the cycle go on, so that even when you really need to go for your annual vacation and all of that, you can, yes, give a guide when you are called on and all of that, but not necessarily carrying your laptop from, like, it's just as if you're working. So I just need to put that in. Thank you so much. Okay, so we have a few minutes. I'm just going to ask one more question I saw here. I'm going to ask you for your last words you want to touch on, and then we're going to call it a day. So I penned this down. It says, what's the place of employers in capacity building of their staff? Why should an employer be responsible for this and not the staff himself? I think this person was coming from the angle of Joseph when he was talking about upscaling and upscaling and trying to rev up your skills. So this person says, what's the place of employers in capacity building of their staff? Why should an employer be responsible for this and not the staff himself? So please, let's quickly answer that fast. We give our last words for this session and we call it a day.
Well, thank you very much, Kewe, for that question. What I would say is that if you want to retain your employee, okay, you need to train them to add value. You need to train them to have the right competencies. You can't say the employee should be responsible for training himself. Because if you need him to add value, so you must give him the right competence, the right training to be able to enhance his productivity. Because if you don't train, you can't demand. All right. So
don't train, you can't.
So in resource intermediary, for instance, we don't take training lightly. We ensure that our staff are trained, and I give you the responsibility to say, look, if you have any training that you think you are interested to impact on you as well on the organization, please let your supervisor know. To your supervisors, send it to the HR. HR will approve this training. You understand? So because we know that if you don't train your staff, you can't demand deliverables from the person. Now, at the end of the month, you want to do a performance management. You want to appraise that person if he has performed very well. Meanwhile, you have given the KPIs, you have given him all the things that he needed to do, and you don't empower him with the necessary skill. How will the person perform? So I think the employer is the right frame of mind to be able to at least ensure that they take that responsibility, yes, to train that staff so that they can add value to the bottom line.
All right, Joseph, what you're saying is it looks so very easy. I think this is for like a very structured organization that have the high-end money and all of that. What about SMEs who their profits and then their revenues is even like a capital for the next? And then I know that in introduction, you also said resource intermediaries offers the capacity building where they train people. So do they get opportunity to have this kind of trainings that are not so that are very affordable? Can you shed more light on resource intermediaries training? Do we have training sessions for like the SMEs now that want to train their staff, their call center agents, and do not really want to spend 150K and 150K above, but they're really small, little, affordable rates training in resource intermediaries?
Yes, of course, of course. We have, when it comes to the area of soft skills training, that's where we have our expertise. We have trainings, curriculum that has been designed for SMEs. So you don't need to spend so much. Even as little as 50,000 naira, you can have training on maybe customer service, emotional intelligence, team building, and attitude and character. So all those courses that enhances the employees' engagement. All right, all those things are available, and the cost is not that very much expensive.
Okay, thank you so much. Blessing.
Just to chip in for the SMEs, we need to begin to see training as an investment, right? It's only it's only when you see it as a cost. That's when you say, I'm not making enough money, so why do I have to train? If you don't train them, you can't blame them. And training is an investment. Some of the results of training you don't see immediately. So for SMEs, the beginning of every business is actually the best time to train, because some of the results you will see over time. So training is an investment. It's not something that we should be thinking. It's only when we see it as a cost that we start asking ourselves, oh, I'm not making so much profit. Why do I have to train? Oh, we're just a small organization. Why do we have to train? You know?
Okay. Yes, I get that's true. And then the other fear that just came into my head also is that when when employers fear or have this fear, okay, especially the Gen Z generations, I train you, you just come in, like you said, I train you for 1, 2 months, and then in the next 4 months, you're out of the organization and all of that. So, is that not also another fear of some organizations holding back? Is that not a fear of some organizations holding back also to say, please let us reduce on our training, investment, and all of that, just like you said? For the generations that the employees generations who just come and then opt out to another job and all of that.
Okay, I think that has been it's not like it's new. It's been existing. I know there are organizations that there are some certain trainings they will send you to. You will sign an MOU that in this couple of years you can't resign. Some will tell you if you have to resign, you would refund the amount that was spent on that training. But you know, there are some things that are inevitable. There are some things that you can't, no matter what you do, it's going to happen. And just like you go into businesses and you don't pray, you know, to run into debt, you don't pray to go into bad investments, right? Some still happen. I mean, in our business, we know some of the leakages that we do have. Nobody prays for their staff to steal. Nobody plans for even their staff to steal, but these things happen. So, like I said, training is an investment. However, there are good and bad investments. There are investments that you will do. At the end of the day, your money just goes.
Yeah, sure.
It won't stop you from investing should you see another opportunity. So that's how I see it. There are going to be good investments, there are going to be bad investments. And in situations where you spend so much, you can go the route of doing the MOU. Some organizations actually do. You can't leave for like maybe 3 to 4 years, especially when the training is for you to deliver on a particular role that you just assumed.
Okay. Yeah. And also, for the talent and advisory, and just also like I think circle, because if you train the best, and then even if they leave, they go to an organization B, a Joseph in organization B, a well cooked, um, a well cooked person Same thing too, when a care organization loses somebody and wants to replace, the cycle goes round. So if every organization is running away from the fact that yes, we need to invest and train our people, these same people that are in the system, because at the front end or at the end of the game, it is the economy that is actually growing. It is still the same people, whether from organization A to organization B, that will still grow the economy at large. So it's still like a circle that's here that goes round. Thank you so much, Joseph. Thank you so much, Blessing.
Another way organization can also avoid that is do not train the trainer. For example, send somebody on training, let the person come back and pass that training down. It's another way to retain your investment. So if I come back, I will ensure that I'm passing that knowledge to my subordinates. So it's another way to retain that knowledge, even if not 100%, but at least some certain percentage is dropped.
Train.
Okay, well, I think I align with Blessing's last point, and that idea of signing an MOU. Well, I don't know how that can be enforced in the court of law. Because you can sign the MOU and still take up. So I think that's your last point. Actually speaks well about it. So you should be able to, when they are back, they should be able to pass the knowledge across. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joseph. Thank you so much, Blessing. This was really an enlightening session. I've been able to relearn some things from the human resource expectations and all. And then I just believe that we'll be able to execute all of these lessons, either as an employee, as an employer, along with improvements and in-depth efficiency, because they say that's the cocoa of the matter. Efficiency is the in-depth efficiency and productivity is actually the main point of what we preach, of what human resource practitioners preach. Yeah. Any last words from you before I drop the mic? And sincere appreciations once more. Again, I'll introduce Joseph. He's our talent and culture advisory in Resource Intermediaries Limited. Blessing Ujawe is compensation and benefits head for Resource Intermediaries. And my humble self, I am the one who does the talking. I'm actually the corporate comms head and customer experience. Thank you guys for this session. So last words from you guys for now, before we call it a day, on the future of work. Joseph.
Well, my advice is that a lot of transformation have taken place and it will continue to take place. So we should try as much as possible to learn or continue to do those things that we think will help the organization to achieve is a corporate objective. Because as it is, a lot of things have become the normal. So organization needs to put all those things together, put processes together, put policies together, and ensure that some of these things are actualized so that the organization can actually achieve its objective. Yeah.
Thank you, Joseph. Blessing.
I'm just going to tilt towards Joseph. It's like he brought the words out of my mouth. My last thought would just be employees, HR professionals, organizations in general need to be open to change, right? Be ready to embrace change because things are changing really, really, really rapidly. If you don't run along, the future of work will leave you behind. So we need to be very open to change and embrace it.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining this session. We hope to see more of you. We hope that you also get to follow our page, Resource Intermediaries, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. We also have some trainings for the month if you really want to build your capacity. We have building performance efficiency for May 31st. We also have another one coming up, how to solve conflicts in the workplace for same May 31st. And then we have adaptive strategies for maximizing organizational results. All we want to see at Resource Intermediaries is that we want to see your people grow. Those are your employees, those are your talent, those are your profits, so to say. Yeah, and then we preach about people management, not performance management. That is it for us. So thank you very much. If you have further questions, you can ask us on our DM, can direct message us. And all. It's been a very engaging session and nice one. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace out.
Thank you.